All right, so hello. I'm gonna start my timer. My name is Emily, Emily Parks. I've been here at Third for a couple years now, probably 3 or 4, I would say. So basically, what I'm gonna kind of talk about tonight is my testimony, specifically to do with the mission trip I just came back from. So for those that don't necessarily know, I went with Equipping Haiti this year, and we were able to go to visit the Damian Baptist Church and school, and we were there for 7 days, and yeah, it was really awesome. So I'm gonna kind of start with a simple passage, and if you have your Bibles would like to follow along, it's in Luke chapter 10. And we're gonna just start in verse 1, and it says, "After this the Lord appointed 72 others and sent them 2 by 2 ahead of him to every town and place where he was about to go. And he told him, 'The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into his harvest field. Go, I am sending you out like lambs among wolves.'" So, I have always grown up in church. I've always, that's something that I have been blessed with, is having a family who is Christian. And so specifically when I was young, my dad was a pastor, and we lived in Kentucky, and he pastored a church there. And when I was about 5, we moved to Illinois, and he started pastoring at Livingstone, which is kind of on your way to Krill Springs. And he pastored there for quite a few years. I think it was probably my 6th grade year, maybe 7th grade year, when he stepped down from preaching there. And at that point we stayed there because they had a really good youth program. We really loved the youth minister, but pretty shortly after that they also stepped down from their position, and so it was kind of our time of, all right, we're gonna find somewhere else now, because we feel like God's telling us to move on. And so at that point, my parents have always done a good job of teaching us, me and my siblings, to tithe. And so I'm going to read another verse in Leviticus 27, verse 30. "A tithe of everything from the land, whether grain from the soil or fruit from the trees, belongs to the Lord. It is holy to the Lord." So this is something that, like I said, I've always been taught, and they've done a really good job of making sure that we understand the importance that that, whenever we get birthday money or Christmas money, or whether we work and get a paycheck, you need to take a certain portion of that and give it back to the Lord somehow, because he has blessed you with that. And so during that transition period where we did not have a home church, I didn't necessarily have a place to put my tithe money. And so what I did was I just kind of kept piling it up. And so we would visit, different churches and just kind of try them out. And it wasn't probably until my freshman year of high school that we started going more regularly to my family church, which is Mount Moriah. And so at that point, I had a certain amount of tithe money had built up that, I just kept looking at and kept adding to, and I was just like, I don't know what to do with this. I was like, I don't want, should I just take it and put it all into a church? And I was like, no, I don't feel like that's I don't feel like that is where God is wanting me to put it. So I'm like, okay, well, I want to do something with it to help out, kids mainly. So should I put a section of it to church and section of it to feed my starving children? And I just kind of kept, putting that decision off, because I just didn't know. And so again, that was from 6th or 7th grade until freshman, sophomore year of high school. Sophomore year of high school, I started coming here to Third with my friend Chloe. And then later, when I was with Peyton, we started coming together, and so I've been here for a little while. And I remember coming here and hearing the Equipping Haiti team talk about their trip, and I don't think it was right after like hearing that. I don't actually know how long it was, but I just remember like one day I was sitting there looking at it thinking, what should I do with this amount that I saved up? And I remember just kind of it hitting me, use it to go on a mission trip, specifically to Haiti, because that's the one that I just felt put on my heart. And so that was sophomore year that I kind of felt that decision of taking the money that God has been having me set aside to put for a specific purpose. And so what I did was I took it and labeled it and had my dad stick it in the safe, because I know I couldn't go that year. So just kind of set it aside. And so I again kept coming here, and I really enjoyed it. And it was last year that, I guess it technically would have been 2 years ago from now, that they were talking about going on the Haiti mission trip. And I was like, oh, I want to go. Can I go? And sadly, I was only 17, so there were some other issues. So God was like, nope, not yet. Not your time. You're going to have to wait. So I was very sad that I was not able to then, but just kind of kept waiting. And I'm glad that he had me do that, because I think that it just created more excitement in me to go. And so then last year now, when they were planning the trip for the one that we just went on, I was like, all right, can I go? And so I, went to the meetings and we talked about it, and it was all of the steps fell in place for me to be able to go. And just to kind of show, the amount that Tim had asked us to save up for was about $1,600 per person. And through the amount I had saved up, I had a generous donation from a family friend, and then I added just a little bit extra of my own. I was able to have $1,000 total from the money that I had saved up from earlier on. And so it was really just awesome to see that God, even from early on, was like you're saving this up for a purpose. I have a purpose for you. And so with that said, I'm going to kind of go into the story from this year. So I would say one of the most emotional times that I had felt was definitely the dress rehearsal night. And so when it was the night that we were supposed to leave on a Sunday, and I had not checked my phone before I left, which that was bad on my part, but I did not check my phone before I left. And so when we showed up, I was ready to go. I was excited. And Penny, you actually came up and gave me a hug, and you were like, you said some kind of comment of like,
don't let your parents leave yet.
Don't let your parents leave yet. But you had said twist of events or something like that. And I thought, plot twist, thank you.
Plot twist.
She goes, plot twist. And I was like, wait a minute, what? I was like, I think I misheard her.
What twist is this?
And so Tim gathered us around and was like, yeah, so our flight is canceled. And when I tell you that I just all of the excitement and everything just kind of crashed. I was like, what? Kind of took to a stop. It was like going full speed, and it was like, halt. And Allison came up to me and she was like, are you okay? And when I tell you, I just broke down. I was like, I'm fine, but I just need a minute. And so I had been, throughout this entire summer, I had been asking for prayer from people and praying myself, specifically that if we were not able to go, or that if the trip was canceled, that God would give me peace with it, that he would give me understanding. Because again, very excited to go, but I just didn't want if we weren't able to, I didn't want those emotions to turn into frustration or anger or control. I didn't want it to be like, you're going for you and not for the right purpose, for God. And so that's something that I had specifically tried to remind myself, is that, this is you're going for God. So if he says it's not your time, be okay with that. And so again, that's when it got to that point where it was like, it's not your time, you're like, you can't go. That's how it felt. It was like, okay, don't freak out, but also I know that your emotions are getting really crazy. So I went home that night, and I was just like, okay, I'm gonna go to bed. And I went to bed and I woke up, and I mean, pretty, like maybe 30 minutes after being awake, I felt him tell me that, you know, that I felt him show me the reason of waiting, that it was to show that he was in control. Because I had been saying for months, if he doesn't want us to go, he'll make it happen. Like, he can cancel the flight, he can create something to happen so we don't go, but at the same time, you don't necessarily believe it until it happens, and then you're like, wait a minute, I genuinely have no control in this situation. And so that is something that he did give me peace with, is basically him saying that, you have to remember that I am in control in this situation. And so from then on, I had felt nervous, but I really wasn't like worried, if that makes sense. I felt peace over the situation. And so whenever we showed up and we were good to go, it was, the pictures going along somewhere in here, but you can see like how excited I am. I'm very excited. And so that's kind of the story of why I felt led for this mission trip, and why I did end up going on this mission trip this year. That is something that God had put on early on for me, to say that, this is what you should do. And so now I'm just going to talk a little bit more like into the mission trip. So a lot of the things that really did take effect is just seeing how it doesn't really matter where you're at, whether you are in Southern Illinois, in Carbondale, or whether you are in Damian in Haiti. There's going to be beauty, and there's going to be things that, there's going to be people that you see that make you smile, and that show, like, you can feel God even, through the little children, or through the service and through the music, even if you can't understand it. There's going to be beauty, but there are people who do not have it as good as you have it. And so that's, for me, that was a really big lesson that God gave throughout this trip, is that there's a lot of good that we have, and it really doesn't take much to show how good God is, even through the smallest things. And there's a picture going around through in here of me dancing with the kids, and that was probably one of the most one of the best memories I share with the kids specifically, is being able to go up there and just kind of let loose and be crazy and dance with them. Because again, whether you're here or whether you're there, kids are going to be kids. They're going to show you their love, and they're going to show you that, their excitement. And I definitely learned a lot through not only them, but definitely through my team members. We spent a lot of time together, and I can definitely say that I have grown a love for you guys that I did not go into the trip with, that I definitely feel much closer and have learned a lot from you guys, and very, very thankful for that opportunity. And so, yeah, I don't really have a ton more to say than that, but yeah, there's a little bit about why I did go on this mission trip and kind of how the mission trip went for me. So, are there any questions or anything that anybody has to ask about it? No?
You going back next year?
I am, yes. That is definitely.
Have you consulted God on that yet? That's what I always ask Tim. Did you ask God yet about next year?
I have asked him to show me if I'm not supposed to go. Otherwise, yes, I feel I'm ready. I'm ready to go. Definitely did not realize that you could be somewhere for such a little time and walk away loving everybody that you met. So there's a lot filtering through, but myself with all of the team members, they definitely would not have been, or they definitely have created a little spot in my heart, like Valmy, and well, thought they were going to filter through, but anyway, so yes.
One of the things you shared earlier was your first impression once you got on the ground in Haiti. Talk about that a little bit.
Okay, so when we were on the plane, like to Haiti, we got closer and closer. I was very nervous. I was excited, but I was very nervous because I had heard that, you know, the airport was one of the scariest parts. And so when we got off, we got off and immediately there was a band in the corner playing. And it was like nerves, but I was like, oh, that's really nice. Like, that's really cool. I like that, you know, playing live music, and it's just put a really good mood in. And so we went through the airport, and it was very scary, just because very new to me. I had never done that before. And so it wasn't until we probably got in the car with the translators that I kind of felt myself being able to relax some. But then we took off in the car, and they definitely had talked about it, but I did not mentally prepare myself for Haitian driving and for that, just in general. So that was the first thing that I definitely was like, wait a minute, what is happening? Penny, hold on. Hold on to me anyway, sorry. And so it was definitely like that.
Can you explain the Haitian driving to those who don't understand what you're talking about?
Yes. So basically it's chaos that works there, if that makes sense. So there's no, you can go as fast or as slow as you want. You can pass people as close or as far away as you want. You drive on the side of the road, to either side of the road. There are people on like bikes going through. There's obviously big cars, little cars. People just standing on the side of the road, passing the road. Like, it's genuinely like, it's just their whole goal is, I need to get to this place. It doesn't matter how you do it, you just do it. And so it's definitely like Valmy would go to pass somebody, and it's like there's somebody going full speed at us, and it's, hold on a minute.
He's flooring it.
Yeah, and he's flooring it, and you hear that, yeah. And of course the vehicles are they're not very nice. So then of course we had this situation where you have car troubles, and so then there's that fear of, oh no, we just hit a giant pothole, are we okay? Or we backed into a brick wall, are we okay? Or, you know, and so that was very crazy. But the thing that Tim is referring to that I really was not ready for is the conditions. There were shops all over the streets, and there were just piles of just trash, whatever it was. I mean, there were piles that looked to be taller than I am. Some of them burning, some of them just goats standing on them eating. And the smells were very overwhelming. It was, I couldn't even tell you everything that I felt like I was smelling, but it was specifically burning trash and gas and the scent of like cooking. They had a specific scent every time they would cook. It always would smell the same to me. Just lots of smells and lots of people who were just in ragged clothes, some of them who looked nice, just sitting there waiting for the next person to come up and ask for a ride for them to have a job. People walking through the streets asking to do simple things, like we had somebody come up to wipe off our windshield with a dirty rag just to try to make a couple extra bucks, or walking around with water on their head to pass out to try and make some extra money. And again, people with, I remember on our way to the guest house, there was a very large truck that was stuck in this, I don't know if it was a side road. To me it looked like a side road, but it was stuck in this giant hole, like trying to make it through, and there were just lines of cars, people trying to pass it any way that they could, and it was just very overwhelming at the amount of just chaos that was going on, that people have to endure every day, you know, and that people that we love have to go through every day. And that was definitely very overwhelming for me at first to see, and so that was I was crying and definitely very, very different than what obviously we're used to here. And so it was like that every time too. Like I would say, every time that we would get in the car to go somewhere, like I would just be just staring out that window because I was like, there's so much to see and so much to, there's just so much that is different. But yeah, that was a very overwhelming part. And then I will talk about the other really overwhelming time that I had was in the service itself. So when they had talked about how when you go to a Haitian service, you're not going to understand anything they're saying because, well, they're talking Haitian Creole, which I am not fluent in. I only know a couple words. And so when you're sitting there and they're going through the service, you don't necessarily know exactly what they're saying, but you can tell that like God is there. And so with the first song that they were singing, like we were sitting there and just listening, and like I was like, this is beautiful. This is church. Like, you know, this is a place where people are coming together to sing to God. And the building itself, there's a picture running through here. It's an old concrete building, and like I didn't know what to expect when I walked in to see the service. And when I walked in, I mean, like they had just rows of, there were at least 250 chairs in there because each row had 100 and 2 rows, and then one's on the stage, one's in the back, and anyway, lots of chairs. And they had these gigantic windows where they let the breeze come in with kind of like a ragged material as far as like a curtain. And then like the stage,
There's the church.
There's the church, yes. And so like the giant like cutout windows, but the stage had like just whiter than white curtains and blue curtains hanging down, and it was decorated and it was very beautiful. Like Avi I know has talked about like having decorations in the service and or in our sanctuary, and he's talked about the importance of not putting too much value in the decorations. And I loved that even though all of the decorations they had were so simple, it just made it look like so beautiful, like they had taken so much care of it. And so again, when they started singing and like you could just hear everybody, and it was very impactful. And then what really got us was one of our translators, Geraldi. He had the night before prepared a song to sing for us, and so he went up there, and the song, it's the one that says, "I'm no longer a slave to fear, I am a child of God." I don't know exactly what the title is of that song, but what is it? It's Child of God. Yeah, that's what.
No longer a slave to fear.
But anyway, we know what's in it.
Yeah. So he started singing it in Haitian Creole, and we were like, oh, this is really pretty. Like he has a beautiful voice. He is really talented in music. So we were like, oh, this is so nice. And then I didn't catch like I was listening, but I wasn't listening super intently to the words necessarily. So I did not catch that he would change it to English until he said that line right there, that I'm no longer a slave to fear, I'm a child of God. And when I tell you, like I just broke. Like when I got in there originally, before we left the guest house, I was like, oh, I forgot tissues. And Shane goes, don't worry, I have some. I was like, okay, because I'm probably going to need them. He was like, okay, well, I've got some. And after we got there and they started singing, I looked at him and I was like, okay, I need a tissue. And he was like, okay. And so he gave me one. And then when he started singing, I looked at Shane, I was like, I'm going to need some more tissues. And so he gave me some more. And like
There's
it was.
right there.
Huh? Yeah, that was Geraldine. Anyway, but it was incredible to sit there and to know, especially to know the words. That way you could put that meaning into the song to be able to sing, the praise and worship. It was really, it was wonderful. So those are the two moments there where I really felt moved by God showing me how incredible He is. And so, yeah. But that's kind of all I've got.
Did you have a favorite day?
A favorite day? Honestly, probably the day where you see the pictures where you see me in the red shirt, the last day of VBS was probably my favorite. As far as out of the three, because all of the kids were they were a lot more warmed up to us, so they were ready to play and like I said, dance, and that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the medical clinic day, and then my second favorite day was definitely the Sunday when we were having we had church, and then we had our party with our
There's a little
translators.
girl.
Yes, this little girl right here, she was the first one to come up to me after VBS one day and told me that she loved me in English and gave me a hug, and it was very, very sweet. And so I have many pictures with her in it that she followed me around like a little puppy dog, and it was really fun. I loved it. But yeah. Well, if there's no other questions, I will go ahead and close us in prayer. So if you want to bow with me. Dear Lord, thank you for giving me today to be able to come and to share kind of what you have been able to do with me through this mission trip, Lord. I thank you for the opportunity, and I thank you that I was able to share with the people that I love my pictures and my story and the meaning that you've put into this story for me. So I thank you, and I thank you for the time that I had and the stories I'll be able to share and the lessons I've learned. And I just ask that you please just continue to use me and to use others to work for your will, and allow Equipping Haiti to be able to move in the steps that we need within your direction. So I thank you, Lord, and it's in your name I pray, amen. So
Thank you, Emily. Good job.
thank you for letting me come share.
Okay, what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna take the prayer request